Black Grimoire Productions presents Trinity Bridge, First Night, Episode 2, by Brandon Hess. Narrated by Brandon Hess. With performances by Brandon Hess as Carlisle Jones, Vincent, and Drake. Maddie Molly as Siegfried. That guy with the voice as Rufio. Aubrey Hollins as Lilac. Christina Nichols as DT. Jacob Eccles as Smith. And Lucas A. Webley as Carson. Two. Carlisle Jones sat at his favorite bar stool in his favorite bar, The Wilds, holding his favorite drink, a Cuba Libre with no ice. However, despite having a particularly potent combination of three of his favorite things, a smile simply failed to cross his face this evening. Instead, he just sat for minutes on end as he watched the bubbles rise to the surface of his drink through his glass until the bartender passed him by and he spoke up.
Hey, Siegfried! You mind if I ask you something?
You might as well. You are gonna do it anyways.
Is it just me? Or is your whole bar literally starting to stink?
The bartender, Siegfried, seemed taken aback by this question somewhat. However, this was nothing new to him since Carlisle was always an unpredictable customer.
Well, how do you mean when you say literally?
The fuck is that supposed to mean?
Are we playing questions only now?
What? You think I'm playing?
Well, whose line is it anyway?
Fuck's sake, I mean the whole bar and its patrons smell like a rotting corpse that shat itself and then vomited all over itself from the smell, which only confounds the already smelly smelliness!
Ha! I win!
Just answer the goddamn question.
But that wasn't the question. Thus, I won.
Answer me or I swear I will fucking shoot you. I've killed for less.
Carlisle, I'm dealing with drunks, hobos, and weirdos on a nightly basis. If there was any odor to be smelled, it has long since lost any effect on me.
I'm not talking about that odor, man. That pungent aroma was what helped make this place home.
No, that's what made it a failing bar in Chicago.
But it was our failing bar in Chicago.
No, Carlisle, it was my failing bar, and now it is my profitable bar.
Objection!
Carlisle bellowed as he slammed his palm down against the bar and shot up onto his feet from the bar stool, his hand leaving a minor but impressive indent on the granite countertop, given his rather skinny and malnourished appearance.
Carlisle, don't.
Siegfried begged, not wanting Carlisle to start a scene that might result in his bar getting damaged. Again. For the fourth time this week.
Mr. Siegfried, you claim this bar, The Wilds, is owned and run by yourself. But, if this is the case, then why do I hear it said that you recently sold the bar to Amanda von Strauss?
Please quiet down, Carlisle. I already told you she just owns the property. I still make the policies and can do with the place as I wish. Heck, I even take home all the profit. I basically just pay her rent or something. It's no big deal.
Oh, really? Because it sounds to me like you just weren't satisfied with what you had, and you gave in to greed and made a deal with Old Scratch for some extra scratch.
That's not fair, Carlisle.
Sure, you could barely keep the lights on, and yeah, your sign was missing a letter or two. And yes, several drunks and bums, myself included, may or may not have used your bathroom door as a toilet instead of the bathroom on occasion. But it was your bar, man! It was honest. It was flawed. It had a soul. And now look at it. HD TVs in two corners, toilets and sinks with that weird automatic feature, and people coming in from who the hell knows where, ordering your now overpriced drinks, and every one of them smells absolutely repugnant. And all it cost you was your
Carlisle's cross-examination was suddenly interrupted by a beer mug hurled from across the room, shattering against the back of his head, causing him to faceplant against the granite bar, breaking his nose and chipping more than a few teeth from the tremendous impact.
Overruled, asshole!
The thrower shouted. Carlisle slowly started to peel himself off of the bar, his face now a bloody mess. As he did, the man who threw the mug, a tall, rather muscular, and very intimidating-looking bruiser by the name of Rufio, made his way over to Carlisle's stool. Siegfried just sighed in surrender and prepared for the night to take its course. Needless to say, his bar would not remain intact by the end of this.
Now listen here, lawyer man. As it happens, I like what old Siggy's done with the place, and Miss Von Strauss is a very generous employer and hostess to me and my crew when she needs us, and for the record, I bathe nightly. So your little speech just insulted not only me, but also my friends and my livelihood. So either you apologize like a good little bitch, and maybe I'll let you leave with at least one bone that ain't broken.
As the bald-headed, bearded Goliath held poor Carlisle aloft, Carlisle suddenly began to smirk and chuckle amidst the blood and teeth filling his mouth.
Oh, I know! You are not laughing at me, you cock-sucking shit-fucker! What's so goddamn funny?
I just realized why this bar smells so bad. Oh, you motherfuckers just came in from Amanda von Strauss's human millipede ass-kissing orgy extravaganza!
An astonished silence fell over the bar as Carlisle delivered his quip. Not because it was particularly good or potent, but because the crowd expected to witness a public execution immediately after its delivery.
I am literally going to rip you in half now, you loud-mouthed, scrawny shit-talking.
Doink!
Fuck!
Before he could finish, Carlisle jabbed 2 fingers into his assailant's eye sockets and extended 2 sharp, bony claws from his fingertips to puncture and rend his attacker's eyes. The man screamed in agony and dropped Carlisle, clawing and clutching at the fresh wounds. As Carlisle fell to the ground, he managed to regain himself mid-drop and land on his feet. Seeing his opponent staggering and his friends moving in to assist, Carlisle saw his opportunity. Carlisle then leapt into the air, curling his knees up to his chest before thrusting them forward into the blinded Baldy, sending them both flying in opposite directions. The bald ruffian into a swarm of friends, and Carlisle through a nearby glass window and out onto the pavement.
Hasta la bye-bye, fuckers!
Carlisle Jones, you son of a bitch! You better fucking pay for that window!
Siegfried cried out as Carlisle ejected himself from the bar. As he hit the pavement, however, he paid no mind to the demand of the bartender, and instead started making for the nearest manhole cover he could find, since he had more pressing matters on his mind. Namely, not being killed by the ensuing mob of brutes, who would no doubt be chasing him down for insulting their boss and kicking their friend in the chest.
Great. One punch and shell and right into another.
Carlisle said as he reached into the pockets of his hoodie and pulled out a massive crowbar that should be far too long to fit obscurely in any article of clothing, and started to pry open the heavy metal circle leading into the Chicago sewerways. As it slid off, scraping against the street with an audible grind, Carlisle saw the mob of thugs storming out of the bar looking for him.
Oh, hell!
Carlisle said quickly before descending into the odious corridors of the sewers. They didn't see me come down here. They didn't see me come down here. They didn't see me come down here.
I saw him! He went into the sewer!
Fuck! Okay, just don't follow me. Just don't follow me. Just don't follow me!
Follow him!
Son of a bitch!
With the chase officially on, Carlisle began darting down the dark sewerways as fast as he could, whirling and running through the vast and winding tunnels with incredible speed and agility, outpacing even the rats that tried to scurry away from him as he barreled through. However, as he ran, something caught his ear. He heard voices in the distant darkness, discussing a plot most insidious in tone. Carlisle listened in on the voices and tried to hear what they were up to.
So, we're in agreement. We leave Chicago tonight and rendezvous with our brothers and sisters in Detroit. Carson, Drake, and I will acquire suitable transportation and ready the cargo, while Smith, Lilac, and DT acquire sustenance for our trip.
I thought we were supposed to get some snacks.
Substances is snacks, you dumb cunt!
Fuck you, Drake. I ain't dumb.
Nah. You're just a cunt who don't know what words are.
Vince!
Fuck's sake, Drake, you're an equally stupid cunt because you can't even say the word sustenance. Now everyone shut the fuck up and let's figure out how we're going to do our jobs.
The command seemed to silence the petty bickering amongst the group long enough for Carlisle to notice a familiar, disgusting odor. One so hard and intolerable to him, even the scent of raw sewage flowing down a literal river of shit was overpowered by it. The same scent he smelled in the bar. It was a smell that meant one of two things to people like him. Get the fuck out of there, or get ready for a fight. Carlisle slowly reached into his jacket and put a hand on his shotgun, ready to draw at a moment's notice.
Good. Now DT, remember who to ask for once you get to the front desk of the hospital. DT? Deets! You listening? Open your fucking eyes, you sleepy bitch!
I am not sleeping, Vincent, sir. I am focusing.
I told you to cut it with that proper polite sir crap. I'm a Regellis, but that doesn't mean I'm all about titles and addressing and shit. Leave that shit to those pompous fucks in the Turris of Burnia.
Of course, Vincent, sir.
What did I just fucking... fuck it. I'll tolerate it for now. Just answer the damn question.
Ask for Mrs. Lockley at Northwestern to give me my papers.
Good. You've got it.
What? That's it? She just goes aside and says shit? Then why the fuck is we going along?
You is going along in case things get messy. You're going to one of the most prominent hospitals in the city. There's bound to be religious types around, and since those prostrating fucks can sometimes suss us out, it'll be your job to make sure nobody gets the chance to expose us.
But then why don't we just scoop up some poor suckers from wherever and drink from them, huh?
Because we're trying to keep a low goddamn profile.
Nah, girl. It's 'cause the boss is a picky eater, and he needs his blood specially selected.
Oh, like I can help it. I didn't ask to be restricted to AB positive any more than you lot asked to become what we are at all. Life's a bitch. Now, if there are no more useless questions...
Okay. This sounds like something I really ought to try and stop. Or at least report.
Carlisle thought to himself as he listened to the stranger's plot.
But right now I'm severely outnumbered and already being pursued by another group of putrid assholes out for my blood. So maybe adding to that number right now would be bad for my odds of making it back home alive. Shit, I need to find a new pack to roll with. Lone wolves are bullshit.
Then let us be on our way. DT, I trust you remember which route to take on your way out. DT? Oh, for fuck's sake, DT!
Do you smell it, brothers?
Oh, god fucking damn it.
What's you on about, DT? It's a bloody sewer. Everything smells down here.
Yes, Brother Drake, blood. Blood is in the air. I can smell it. Thick, delicious, potent.
Uh-oh.
Well, focus on getting blood in the car instead, you stupid, insane motherfucker.
Hold on, Vince. This may mean something. Perhaps some sort of cryptic insight. She is a Quasus after all.
Now that you mention it, I do smell it.
Shit!
It smells... edible.
Shit! Shit!
Appetizing, even.
Shit! Shit! Shit!
DT, you take your group and fetch the blood from the hospital. We'll investigate this and head out after.
Understood, Vincent, sir. We take our leave.
Son of a bitch, Deets!
Well, fuck! Looks like that's my cue to delve back and hope to...
I found him! He's over here!
Shouted one of the thugs from the bar, having managed to track down Carlisle as he sat eavesdropping on the other group's conversation.
Aw, damn it!
The ruffian lunged towards Carlisle.
Thought you could get away, motherfucker!
He shouted as he charged toward his quarry. Before he could say anything else, though, Carlisle interjected with a blast from his shotgun directly into the thug's face.
Consider that a warning shot, fuck boys!
Carlisle called out into the echoing sewerways.
Fuck off!
Fuck you, motherfucker!
Cried back the familiar gruff voice of the thug's leader as he rounded the corner to see Carlisle standing over his incapacitated ally and aiming his shotgun down the tunnel at him.
My. Gunshots and carpet F-bombings. Have we walked into a war zone?
Asked Vincent as he stepped out of the shadows along with his comrades. He stood tall and lean, wearing a solid red t-shirt, black denim jeans, and brown shoes. His hair short, black, and slick. His face was pale and clean-shaven, his eyes like pools of murky, faded blue. His companion, Drake, stood slightly shorter than him, but much more bulky and far uglier. He wore a black tank top with black leather pants and combat boots. His skin was putrid gray with pus leaking out of his pores and raw muscle exposed beneath torn and decayed flesh. His face was crooked and misshapen, with the left eye bigger than the right, both eyes sunken in, an enormous underbite full of yellow and green gnarled teeth, and the surface of his face covered in rusty piercings all over. His other companion, Carson, stood taller than both of them, pale as a ghost and gaunt as a skeleton. He wore a white trench coat with matching white undershirt and pants, as well as white sneakers. His body covered in bony ebony spikes wherever his flesh was visible. He was bald with an emotionless face, pale pink eyes, and crimson red lips.
Kinda reminds you of back home in Detroit, don't it, Vince?
Right you are, Drake. But pleasantries aside, I'm really curious as to just what is going on here.
Back off, fuckers. This is none of your concern.
Quite right. It is none of my concern. On the contrary, it is of my interest. Now, start talking, or I will make you talk. I have a busy night ahead of me, and I want to eliminate any potential distractions.
Rufio grinned and chuckled at his cheeky adversary. Meanwhile, Carlyle just listened and waited for an opportunity.
Well, shit. I was gonna let you and your necropolis boys just run along with no trouble, but you had to go and be a smartass and threaten me. And I've just about had it with smartasses threatening me tonight.
I'm not threatening you. I'm commanding you,
Vincent said, looking the brute in the eyes.
Tell me what's going on here.
Vincent's words carried a literal spell of obedience, causing Rufio to drop his aggressive posture and calmly explain to Vincent just what had happened that night. As this exchange went on, Carlyle looked for a getaway route. However, escape seemed rather unlikely since he was surrounded by hostiles both in front and behind him in a narrow sewer tunnel. That is, until he saw it, a glimmer of the moon reflecting off the water overhead from a nearby grate. He smiled and concentrated on the glimmer, and in an instant, felt himself pulled from the sewers, from the material world itself, and most importantly from that ugly conflict, and into the realm of spirits, a realm parallel to the world in which humanity dwells and comprehends, where the spirits of all things dwell, manifest, and give function to life and the world around it. The ability to step into this world was one of Carlyle's greatest and most frequently utilized tactics in his struggle for survival.
Stage 1 complete. Stage 2, watch and wait.
Meanwhile, in the sewers of the material world, both of Carlyle's opponents stand confused and aghast at his sudden disappearance.
Great job, you stuffed shirt shitlord! You let him get away!
Oh darn. What a catastrophe. I suppose I'd better go away and think about what I've done,
Vincent said sarcastically to the brute in front of him before turning to his companions and heading back into the tunnels.
We're leaving. The peculiar scent, if there ever was one, has faded. DT's full of crap, as usual. We've wasted enough time here.
At this point, Rufio had had just about enough from Vincent and charged toward him in a blur of brutal fury.
I'll waste you, you arrogant, condescending prick!
He shouted before delivering a punch strong enough to pulverize concrete to the back of Vincent's skull. Vincent didn't even budge.
Really? I allow you the courtesy of a continued existence after you waste my time with your stupid hobo chase, and this is how you repay me? Honestly, you two men really are a load of disgraceful barbarians, aren't you?
And you necropolis fucks only serve to cause trouble and piss me off,
cried the roughneck as he delivered a snap kick to reluctant Regulus's spine, this time actually causing him to lurch forward as an audible crack emanated from his body. Vincent paused as he recovered.
Carson, see that this two-man trash doesn't bother us any further, then rejoin us.
Carson stepped forward as his comrades departed. The two-man thug glared at the approaching monster covered in bony spines and laughed.
We supposed to be afraid of you, Pincushion?
Huh. We? Who's we?
The Isverg gestured a long, gaunt, bony finger to the area behind the two-man where his comrades stood with a subtle chuckle. The two-man then looked behind him to see where there once stood a gang of two-men, the toughest, hardiest, kick-your-ass-in-a-fightingest vampires this side of the Torre Suburnia. Warriors renowned for their unstoppable sheer strength and imperceivable speed and precision, who share blood with Genghis Khan and his feared Mongol hordes. There now laid only several piles of dust and ash, coating crumbling bones. He turned back and looked ahead at the departing troop. The ugly one, the Bagad, held a saber dripping with crimson in his hands.
Bagad bastard backstabbed my boys while we was blabbing.
In direct combat, the two men are indeed formidable, but caught unawares, they are vulnerable and fall like the Trojans.
Carson sneered sinisterly as he skulked towards his opponent. As he did, his body began to elongate and grow, bones stretching and cracking, muscle rapidly forming and bulking up his once gaunt and unsettling form, protruding bones growing longer and more dense and sprouting spikes along their surface. This was the terrifying signature inculcation of the Isverg, and often the last thing a poor soul would see or, God forbid, experience. Forma viventrum. It allowed the Isverg to modify and reshape flesh, bone, and tissue into any shape they desired at will, be it that of others or their own. And those proficient enough could use it to warp and twist their own bodies into a muscle-bound, inhuman monstrosity capable of boundless destruction. And now, just such a monstrosity was slowly approaching Rufio, who had only come down here to pursue a drunken hobo who was talking shit about his benefactor, only to find his friend slaughtered behind his back for his trouble. In spite of this, he stood resolute and unafraid, even in the face of true terror, for the two men's fear died with their humanity.
You forgot one thing, you ugly flesh mound,
Rufio said as he assumed a fighting stance.
As long as one two-man stands, the war ain't over.
Then let us end it.
Carson charged at the two-man, bone blade bared. He narrowed in on his quarry and swung with deadly precision and furious strength, but as he made contact, the two-man vanished, and he felt his arm snap as the blade landed. He let out a cry of shock and anguish as the pain caught up to him. The two-man stood behind him, unscathed and ready for more.
Shoulda had that Bagad bastard kill me too, dumbass.
Yes, such strength, such power. I cannot wait to devour it.
Then bon appetit, fuckface.
The two-man lunged at the monster with blinding speed and struck blow after earth-cracking blow to the face of the Isverg monster, each punch cracking the skull of the monster as it connected.
How's that taste, fucker? How's it fucking taste?
Before Rufio could land his next punch, however, his fist was caught in the visceral, jagged, razor-sharp jaws of the monster, biting down with bone-crushing force on the two-man's hand. The two-man didn't give the monster the pleasure of a scream, though.
You think you got me trapped, fucker? Is that it?
The two-man then pulled back on his impaled hand with his other hand, tearing his arm free from his imprisoned wrist, and raising it high above his head, setting up for a hammer blow.
Surprise, cockbag!
Rufio brought down both his arms onto the monster's head. Despite only having one fist, the force was enough to cave in the monster's skull, spraying blood and bone all across the tunnel. The monster's body then fell limp.
You dead yet, bitch?
Any less cautious person would assume that a caved-in skull would be an instant conversation ender. But the two men know better than to make assumptions when dealing with the Isverg. He stood there and waited, carefully watching the dormant beast for any sign of activity, never averting his gaze for a moment. His diligence paid off, as several bone needles suddenly shot out of the monster's mouth, striking at his eyes. He swiftly sidestepped the deadly bones, but as he set his foot down, he felt his flesh pierced by a bone bear trap at the end of a newly grown limb in the monster's body. An arm he could work without, but his legs would be far more problematic to sever. Then, from his side, another bone-jawed limb lunged at him. With lightning reflexes, he swung his fist at it, shattering it on impact before it could pierce his wrist. But no sooner did he dispatch that hazard, another lunged at him. This time, the head of the monster, cracked and fragile, but no less lethal, as shown by the way its teeth sank into the skull of the two men like a knife through paper. Blood gushed from both their wounds. One of the two combatants would have to succumb soon. Two men never say die, though, so summoning all his remaining strength, the two men grasped the elongated, bony, spiked neck of his aggressor, ignoring the pain of the spikes tearing through his hands as he tightened his grip. Stronger and stronger he applied pressure to the Isverg, and sure enough, cracks began to ring out from the monster's neck. The Isverg cried in agony. He hadn't anticipated his opponent would be strong enough to overcome his monster form, yet here he laid, at his mercy.
Mercy.
Carson begged, pleading for his life.
You Iceberg are all talking, no balls. Guess you're about to learn who the real monster is, bitch.
I beg you, please, spare me.
Save it, ugly. Words ain't gonna save your ass. Nothing can save you now.
Not even a round of dragon breath?
What the fuck?
Rufio looked over to where the unexpected voice emanated from, only to see a blast of fire rushing toward him and engulfing his body and the body of his opponent. He cried out in agony before his body succumbed to the flames, disintegrating into ash and bone. The Isverg, burned and broken, clung to his existence by a tenuous thread. Carlisle then walked up to the critically wounded creature and placed his smoking shotgun against his forehead.
And that, my grilled Cronenberg fiend, is what we call being a kill-stealing punk.
Carlisle quipped proudly. Carson slowly and agonizingly turned his fractured neck and nearly shattered head and looked at Carlisle.
I know what you are. You did not save me. You kept me alive. What do you want of me?
Well, technically I didn't keep your ass alive. That shit ended for you a while ago. But semantics aside, you are correct. I did get rid of that fucker killing the shit out of you for a reason. Several, in fact. The first being, I already hated that guy because he threw a beer mug at my head. The second being that it's my job to hate his kind as well as yours. Which brings me to my third reason. I couldn't help but overhear you fuckers planning some shit. And, well, call it a fault of mine, but I'm just a bit of the nosy type. I gotta know what's going on in the underground, otherwise I just end up going crazy and definitely murdering motherfuckers with a shotgun full of dragon breath. And I think we both want to avoid being part of that embarrassing scene. So, come on, out with it.
You ask me to sell out my sacred band, my blood brothers. Never. I fight for my band. I proudly die for my band.
Yeah, bang up job at those, by the way. I'm sure they're gonna love hearing about how some punk Tooman single-handedly broke every bone in your body and he had to be bailed out by yours truly. And by the way, I've been around. You guys don't like me very much. So the way I see it, you're at the end of your rope, buddy boy. You got no more friends. You got no more honor. All you got is your existence. I, on the other hand, have a shotgun, and that shotgun has the ability to kill you. Painfully. With fire. So, what's it gonna be, Sloth? You gonna cooperate and survive to lick your wounds and mend your bones and skip town praying word doesn't travel as fast as however the fuck you get out of there? Or are you gonna puss out and take up Carlisle's free fire-eating instructional course?
Carlisle knew that his rant, though at least somewhat logical, would not do anything to sway the vampire his way on its own. Thus, he called upon one of his blessings, supernatural gifts bestowed upon his kind by the spirits they worked and lived alongside. This gift in particular was one he liked to call the power of persuasion. A rather self-explanatory blessing. Put simply, as he speaks, he infuses his words with a spiritual charisma that makes the listener more prone to being swayed in his favor. It doesn't always work, but he's made some rather handy use of it in the past. And luckily for Carlisle, it appeared to be serving him yet again as the Isverg began to talk.
Our band has found something of great importance to the necropolis. We are set to leave for Detroit tonight to deliver it to the Boatarch of the city.
And would you care to share exactly what this object is and what it does that's so damn important?
I will say no more, unless, of course, you are willing to share your blood.
Counteroffer! Carlisle then unloaded his shotgun into the dying monster, the dragon breath rounds reducing his body to ash, leaving only a barren skeleton soaked in steaming crimson.
Pleasure doing business with ya.
This has been a Black Grimoire production. Music and ambiance for this production was provided by bensound.com and tabletopaudio.com. Sound effects for this production were provided by freesound.org, flashkit.com, and soundeffectsplus.com. If you enjoyed this production, be sure to follow us on Tumblr and SoundCloud, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the video, and leave a comment. Thank you for listening.